Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Here in this video, we're going to discuss the path ahead for Tesla, your biggest catalysts that are coming kind of in a chronological timing, okay? We also have a lot of talk of Tesla on CNBC in the past 24 hours, some institutions making some very positive statements around Tesla, and this should be highlighted for Tesla stock investors. And of course, I will share, again, my thoughts on Tesla going ahead. So with that said, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, check out that link down below in the description of this video if you have not done so already. And let's get started. So first and foremost, I've talked about this now in the last couple of videos. I think it's quite obvious, but if it is not, let me explain. Tesla stock is sold off because people were buying the rumor, okay? They sold the news. Now, give it a day or two, the selling pressure is going to start to fade. The fact of the matter is delivery numbers were great, okay? But from the trader's perspective, I mean, it was basically going to happen either way, okay? Fine. But what really matters is the strong delivery numbers, okay? It's you know, we got good numbers. So this selling is not going to last, in my opinion. Again, I'm not a financial advisor, I'm not a financial planner, but I don't think this selling is going to last. Okay, especially since we have so many big catalysts coming. Now, think of it like this. You get the bears, you get the sellers out the way. Boom. What happens if Monday we have a big catalyst, a big positive news story? Well, sellers are gone now. Now the buying pressure takes over and the stock can start to really rally from there. And we do have some big catalysts upcoming, kind of in chronological order. We have the FSD V14 that is going to be launching to the marketplace, okay? That is supposed to happen next week. That should be a very positive catalyst, especially once we start to, hear analyst notes and hear about the differences, okay? We've had analysts come out recently calling V14 a big catalyst for Tesla. We have what could be robotaxi entering into the Dallas market. I expect the Dallas market could come in the month of October. So we get FSD V14 next week. We get robotaxis entering the Dallas market, which is going to be a massive catalyst for the stock, okay, at some point in October. November 6th, we have the shareholder meeting, which going to invest in XAI, confirm Elon as the CEO for Tesla for the next 10 years, get the compensation plan approved. That, I believe, is going to be a big catalyst. And we have seasonal positives working in our favor. Okay. Mix that together, I see a very bright end of the year rally for Tesla. Now, things can happen, bad news can happen, blah, blah, blah. But from where I sit now, it's a pretty easy call to see Tesla $100 higher, let's say, into the end of the year. Again, my personal opinion, I am not a financial advisor, I am not a financial planner, but that's what I could see for Tesla. And I think now that deliveries are out the way, people's expectations are lower, the sellers have left, so now we can, actually see positive news. Be positive for Tesla. Anyone that was buying Tesla in anticipation for deliveries with a trade mentality has likely sold out now in the past 2 days. And just wait until we get a positive catalyst. You're going to see a lot of buying pressure come back into the stock. Now, I want you guys to listen to these two clips on CNBC talking about Tesla. One of which is from Dan Ives, another one of which I can't remember her name, but you've seen her before on CNBC. She actually says the energy division of Tesla's business is a very underappreciated area, and I think that's true, right? The just in the numbers we just got for Tesla's deliveries, energy storage was at a new all-time high. I mean, it was an impressive quarter for Tesla's energy business, but yet the stock still sold off. Like, yeah, this move doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and I think people are trying to make sense of it, but I think it's really just a trading reaction that it's going to settle down. We're going to have positive catalyst again, and the stock will inevitably move higher, I believe, into the end of the year. Even then, I expect a strong October, November, December. That has not changed. The government shutdown creates some weird implications, but it does create a bias for the Fed to cut rates. Imagine if the jobs report came in really good today. Then the odds of rate cuts would be lower, and I'm sure the Russell would not be up 1.5%. Okay, so it does create a bias for the Fed to cut rates, because the risk is not that inflation skyrockets in the next 2 to 3 months. The risk would be that the labor market deteriorates over the next 2 to 3 months, and you're actually seeing rate cut odds going up, during this whole government shutdown. So let's go ahead and get into the first clip from Dan Ives
at Wedbush Securities. And I got to say, we didn't even plan this, but our Tesla chart, let's bring it back up, perfectly matches.
I mean, that's
your yellow, orangish jacket.
I think that's a bullish.
We literally had this was not planned. Look at that. I think that's a sign. Why do you love Tesla so much?
Look, I mean, to me, look, the main thing is, my view is on the autonomous and robotics side. I mean, I think this now, when it comes to, it's going to be one of the best AI plays over the next few years. That's why we think it's going to be a $3 trillion market cap. But if you look at the demand's turned around. I mean, this is a bounce back quarter that shows, still more work to do, but this is now setting up for what I believe is going to be a historical 2026, because the AI revolution now comes Tesla.
Well, it better, because the lead of the show with Dan Veru.
Yeah, that's great.
You're Dan Ives, by the way. He's Dan Veru. Was that every small cap stock in America combined is still smaller than NVIDIA. Mm-hmm. The same is basically true with cars. Every major car company in the world combined, can leave a couple out, are the same size or smaller than Tesla. Mm-hmm. Does that worry you at all?
Look, I mean, I was just in Detroit, and I think, you're definitely seeing some turnaround in GM and maybe, even in Ford, but
on big SUVs.
Exactly. But
by the way, gas guzzlers.
But the reality is that Tesla is not an auto company. I mean, I don't view Tesla as a car company. I think Tesla is truly a disruptive technology AI play. When I think about, because the future is ultimately autonomous. I mean, when I think about autonomous and robo-taxis and what's going to ultimately happen in 30 to 35 cities in the next year, that is $1 trillion alone from a valuation perspective in terms of a physical AI play. So that's why I think it's an apples to oranges what Tesla's doing in the rest of the auto sector. They're trying to play catch up.
Connect the dots, okay? I get the autonomous. I'm on the turnpike. I know where you live. You know where I live. I'm on the turnpike all the time. It's like demolition derby at this point. Cars are just going off in the woods. Everybody's on their phone. Half the people are stoned. I have no idea what's going on. I wish everybody had an autonomous car. It's going to look in the camera and say that. But we're because then we'd all just kind of cruise along the same way. We're a long way from that, Dan. A long way. How do we get there?
Well, first off, when you look at Tesla, I mean, today, let's call it 15% have full self-drive in terms of FSD. We think that's going to go to 50% over the next few years. So from a margin perspective, from a software perspective, that's going to be a game changer alone as that happens over the next few years. But in terms of autonomous, I mean, it's our view, 80% of autonomous world is going to be Tesla in terms of globally. So when you look over the next few years, you're talking about, let's say, 2 million vehicles, 3. We're talking about, like, eventually you'll begin to 4, 5, 6, 7 million vehicles. I could argue when that doesn't even include robotics in terms of Optimus, that that together could be more than the value of the company today. So that's our view. What's happening in this Tesla story is that the AI revolution, especially now with Musk back to being a wartime CEO, I mean, I think front and center. That's why we think $600 is probably conservative.
I don't know about I'm the car guy, and I can tell you that what Tesla has done, and I've owned EVs, I've driven a lot of them. What they realized is weight is the enemy. Keep the car light, and you can get more range, because if you do the Ricardo Montalban said, the fine Corinthian leather. The way that we've been sold luxury now, cars are heavy, weight is the enemy of range. I think that's why Tesla is winning against many other companies. Does this also go to your very bullish view and possible M&A target of Lyft?
Mm-hmm. I mean, we put out our M&A target. I mean, I believe Lyft in the next 6 to 9 months is ultimately acquired as a top acquisition candidate because it's the view of autonomous. It's the view whether it's a strategic, whether it's a financial buyer. Lyft is one. If you combine that with an autonomous play, I think that's the future. I mean, that speaks to really this convergence that we're seeing in tech, autos, and you could say energy and some other sectors.
Where do they fit, though? You got Uber. Uber just seems to get all the attention.
Sure.
It also seems to get all the rides. I know it's not, being tongue-in-cheek. Rode in a Waymo, by the way, out in Los Angeles a couple times. That was pretty cool. It was a little weird at first, but then when you get used to it, you're like, oh, there's no driver. I don't know if it was good or bad. Remember, they're probably, somebody is probably always listening regardless. Where does Lyft fit in?
Well, I think, look, the issue with Lyft is that obviously when it came to food delivery, mobility, and also being only a domestic player, but you look at what they have from a rideshare perspective in terms of that, in terms of that network. If you combine that with ultimately autonomous technology, that I think is how maybe on the strategic side, PE is going to look at names like Lyft. And look, we just think this is going to be a tidal wave of M&A that happens in tech. Because with the AI revolution, still we think bottom of the second inning, you are going to continue to see this bull market play out. And that means strategic and financial buyers are going to be aggressive.
Take a listen to this one. It says Tesla's energy storage and generation doesn't get enough credit, says Request Bryn Talkington.
At Capital Management, also a CNBC contributor. When you're looking at the stock move today, is that something that you identify with, or can you understand why somebody might be in a position to sell and want to sell?
Sure. I mean, you always want to ask what's already priced in. And for weeks and weeks and weeks, Tesla shareholders we've all known that the EV credits in the U.S. were going to go away. So there was going to be a pull forward. How much of a pull forward, we didn't know. And so, yeah, they had record sales. So I think it's actually healthy that what was already priced in is now recognized. And so I think it's on to the next point. I do think in Tesla, it's really important what Phil talked about energy storage. So when I think about power storage and generation, last quarter, Elon talked about that segment had year-over-year gross profits of over 800 million. And if you think about this capacity, electricity constrained, environment we're in, once again, Tesla has this, I think, Trojan horse, this sleeping giant of power generation. They're just continuing to have very high margins on and continue to grow.
Do you think that outweighs the worries over margin pressure when it comes to the EVs?
Well, investors have been willing to look through and say, because if you look at Tesla on a fundamental basis, you would say over the last year and a half, sales are down, earnings have declined. To your point, margins have come down. And so how is the stock continuing to do, very well, approaching that, or it's over that December 2024 high? It's because investors are saying this is still a high growth company. Elon is back. He's locked in and focused. And I think that when you see robotaxis, when you see AI, when you see FSD, when these other verticals, which are not monetizing at this point, are out there on the horizon, investors are going to say, I'm never going to discount Elon, and I will give this company this super high valuation and look past the eroding fundamentals of the business that you have today, which is EVs.
Right now, the stock is at 443. You seem like you're pretty optimistic about the verticals that they have. You said the power generation. You've talked before about your interest in the robo-taxi business. Are you adding to your position at this level?
No, definitely not. I mean, I added at 290 when he announced the American Party and everyone, had a hissy fit on the stock. I added some more at 320. I love to sell calls on the name. It gives me the ability, I think, to have an outsized position. Today, some of those positions have been called away because I had sold calls. I wouldn't be adding here. If you look at the stock chart, it blew past 360, which was prior resistance. That actually also has to be happens to be the 50-day moving average. I don't think it gets back to 360, but I do think at 440, and if you look at the chart, it's too vertical for me. So I'll let it settle back in here, wait for a headline to add to more positions.
All right, and talk to me a little bit about the robotaxi, because we've seen the big hoopla over the launch of that. Do you still like what you see?
Love it. I mean, I'm based here in Texas, so a couple things. If you think about from a profitability perspective, I believe about 6 Waymos cost the same as 30 robotaxis. So from a profitability, they're able to put so many more cars on the road. The geofence, which is where the robotaxi is allowed to drive in Austin, continues to exponentially increase. And Elon had said on the last call that they are hoping to be unmanned, because they're still manned because it has to be safety first, unmanned in Austin and maybe San Francisco as well by the end of the year. That to me will be a next catalyst of this new vertical, if they're able to get those robotaxis fully unmanned and then start to compete against the Waymo. Because if you've ridden in one of those, they're a fraction of the cost of a Lyft or an Uber. And so I think this is going to be where people are going to start paying attention to this new vertical as the years progress.
Said that she believes people are going to start paying attention to this new vertical as the years progress, and I think that's exactly correct. The big catalyst for Tesla these days are no longer delivery numbers; they are cities that the robotaxi is entering. And I do think between now and the end of the year, at least one more city is in the cards, if not a couple of them. You could see rapid progression, because Tesla right now is mapping these cities, getting ready for regulatory approval. They're designing the apps to operate in these cities before they get regulatory approval. I imagine it's something like this. Tesla starts the validation process in Dallas, let's say, and they program the app to already be geofenced to that area in Dallas. So literally all they wait for are the approvals. Once they get the regulatory approvals, boom, they can launch in a matter of days, right? I think that is happening at many different cities in many areas of the US. So it's really just when do we get the approvals kind of thing. And, others like Waymo taking the first step initiatives makes it a little bit easier for Tesla to get those approvals as well. Obviously, safety first, and that's part of it. But I do see some pretty dramatic upside in the future for Tesla. And I think this sell-off is simply an opportunity. Let me know your thoughts on all of this down below in the comment section. Ladies and gentlemen, have a great weekend, and I will see you in the next one.